Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today, I got to sit down and chat with fellow community contributor Eclipse. We talked about various aspects of the game, including things that we do and don't like about the game, as well as areas where we thought Wargaming were doing things right, or we thought they were doing things wrong. I'm not going to say any more than that for now. I'm going to leave you guys with the conversation we had, but if you enjoy it and want to hear more chats like this, please like, subscribe, and let me know what your thoughts are on this type of video in the comments section. Well, it's Saturday. I'm not talking about work anymore.
I've been developing spreadsheets at home, so yeah, it's not a weekend.
No. All right. Well, let's talk. We'll talk about tanks now.
I don't know what's better actually.
Well, there you go. That's a topic of conversation right there. But before we jump into anything like that, I do want to say you are very close to 10k subs. I've got your channel open in the background here, 9.96.
Yeah,
that is very close.
I think the actual number that YouTube gives me is 9969.
9969. Okay. Wow.
So 31 away.
Yeah. Is
in close now.
Is 10k when you get one of the little YouTube plaques, or is it 100,000? Because I thought something happened at 10k.
I think it used to. I think you used to get like the silver E button, but then I think they bumped it to like 100k because like they had like hundreds and if not millions of people that get to like 10k. I think.
Well, 10k. Yeah, that's respectable, man. So, you've earned that. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. It's been mad quick as well. Like,
yeah,
/year feels like everything's gone so quickly.
Yeah. I don't know if did you see Slap's video on he put a video together, sort of one of those sort of timeline videos where he graphs the rate of growth for different CCs. And I think on his video, you saw it, the names are the same, and then just your name, just like whoop, straight up.
Yeah. It's because my channel had been around for a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, I can look now when I first uploaded, which was on the 11th of September 2016. Privated now.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was.
I think I've got you beat on that one. I haven't made them private, but if you were to sort my videos by oldest, I've got little clips uploaded from when I was playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on the PS3. That's like 10, 12 years ago. Yeah, they're still up there. I don't think anyone bothers to filter my videos by oldest, but yeah, no.
Yeah.
10k subs. Well, not almost 10k subs. That's very, very good.
Yeah, you never know. Tomorrow it could all end.
Yeah, but you've been, well, obviously World of Tanks is your thing right now, and are you an eight? Yeah. Are you in your 8th year now? 8-year player?
I think I'm 7.
7. Okay.
Because it's the 8th year anniversary, but I've played it for a while. I think I had like another account that I played on, like maybe, but I can't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely 7 years on this account, 7 and a bit.
Okay. Well, I think the big first question that I'm asking everybody is basically, where you sit with your experience, how is the game doing? In your opinion, how is it doing based on your years of I wouldn't say service, it's not really like that, is it? Your years of play. How is it doing?
It's quite a difficult question because I think like as you go through, like hard to remember what happened like a year ago. But I think right now the game is okay. I think it's definitely not as many people as used to play the game. It's probably in there's definitely been worse times. Like probably the worst time was actually before update 6.0. Like as much as afterwards, like it was bad, and he lost. Like directly afterwards was probably the lowest amount of players that World of Tanks has ever had on console. But yeah, like before then, it was just stagnant. There was absolutely nothing going on, just completely nothing. And you used to see like be 10k people on at max. Sometimes you wouldn't even see that at like 6 o'clock at night. When like now you're looking at 18,000, so it's like doubled probably.
What year? We're 22 now. 19. I think in mid 2018, I think is when I started, and that's when I found Retro Jules. At that point, I subbed to him. And I believe at that point it was averaging about 22,000 people online on a I want to say a weekend. So that's been the peak of my experience with the game. But yeah, I do remember the introduction of mercenaries. That was like the first blow, I would say. And then 6.0. Yeah, that was a rough time. Very rough time. Yeah.
I've got to say, it was probably the worst thing that Wargaming have ever done across any of their platforms. Like, it was just like it was like a beta version. Like they literally purely downgraded the game. Like, you upgraded the graphics, but then like broke everything. So it's like. Is it still a game, or is this just like a trial version? It's like, it was terrible.
The only thing I can think of that in any way defends the decision they made was the build, the game build, the sort of the back of house details that we don't see as players. The coding in the background was so far gone that if they wanted to introduce, say, just one more premium, if they wanted to do that, it would break. Like, that's how bad it must have been for them to say, well, 6.0 is better than releasing something that will definitely break it. That's the only thing I could think of that would justify their decision. But yeah, man, it was rough.
I think corporate headlines were probably looming as well. Like, why haven't you done all of the stuff? Like, we need to earn some money now. We've just invested a load, and so they probably were a bit pressured into doing it as well. Like, we've just got to release it now because we've spent this much time. I don't know. It was bad. It was terrible. In fact,
so,
it was terrible.
Well, it was September. Yeah, that was September 2020, wasn't it? That came out. So we're a year and a half on from there. If you were to take it from 6.0 into that September of 2020 up to now, what are your thoughts on the direction and the progression? Is it good, bad? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, from my own personal point of view and enjoyment, it's probably, I don't know. I feel like I enjoy the game less now.
You're hesitant.
And I used to I enjoyed the game. Like, games got better, but the content direction of the game, and what I enjoy about the game itself, has got worse. But that's just my own personal opinion. Like, that's not reflective of like the game quality getting worse, because it's got better in the last year and a half, or however long it's been exactly. But it's got better gameplay wise, not necessarily like gameplay tactics or whatever it might be, because I think a lot of new players have come. I think a lot of the older players left, rightly so. But yeah, that definitely didn't help, like in terms of creating a bit more of like a proper community. That like in September 2020, like the community was just bad. Like there was, because all you had was new players.
Yep.
Had obviously not spoken to anyone. They'd only just started playing, really. And then all of the older players that kind of knew what they were doing left because they were like, this is just like last straw. But I think now the game is definitely better coming back to 2022 from a playable perspective. Like, you can jump on this game, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yes.
I think my main concern with the game is that Wargaming never get their churn right, which is where like someone comes in, play one game, and then they leave because they're like, what the hell is this? Like, terrible. Like, how the hell do I even learn how to do anything on this game?
You're talking about lower tiers, is that what you're talking about? Like,
Not
you're new
even
to the
just
game.
lower tiers.
Just any
Yeah,
tier.
like, you play like 200 games, go, you know what, I've invested like a month into this game. Like, it's not really gone anywhere. It's like really hard to find any information as to how to actually like get better or just like learn the game or what I should be doing or stuff like that. There's no real like tutorial systems, which I know Wargaming say that they're working on, but
Yeah, it's when I started playing, it was very much a trial by fire experience. I earned my way all the way up to the chieftain, tier 10 chieftain, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I mean, I was so clueless about the game that I sold the Conqueror because I thought this thing is a pile of garbage. And it's probably one of the best tier 9 heavies in the game. And that was the state I was in. And even when I was watching, I'd say, content creators, there wasn't much out there for beginner players. And I think one of the issues that the game has, and this is possibly a fault of the veteran players, is that it's so easy to forget how much you've learned about the game in the time that you've been playing it, and you just forget what it's like to be new. You make so many assumptions like when you make a video. You make so many assumptions about what people do and do not know. I think that may be an element of why it's so difficult for new players. And I don't think Wargaming helps either, because I think the tutorial at the moment is, was it you're YOLOing around in an M1A2, one banging T54s. it's not really a real representation of what the game is. But
what the game is like, because
yeah,
because like you go into that and you're like, this is epic. I can't wait to destroy some people online, and then you like play online, and it's like you just get smacked by about like 5 other tanks, and you're dead, and you're like, well, this isn't what I signed up for.
Yeah,
like, how do I get back to doing what I was doing on the tutorial? It's like you can't, because it's not a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think even sitting here right now talking to you about it, I still don't think I could put together a decent video on here's what to do as a new player, because I haven't spent enough time trying to remember what it was like to be a new player. It's really easy to just sit there next to someone and just think, oh, they know what to do. So you just don't, and there is so much to this game that is new and is changing.
I think it's very hard to make it, like, because I thought, oh, maybe I'll make a video on like, for example, like armor, how it actually works properly, because like from a new player perspective, like I spent like a couple hours the other day, like chatting with someone who was like fairly new. Well, I don't say new, but someone that's like they were just wanting to learn how to actually like play and get better.
Yeah,
they were like, oh, how do I pen this tank? And I'm like, oh, like it's easy. You literally just aim at the big like plate at the bottom of it, goes shoot me here, and you'll get damage.
Yeah,
or look at that giant panel on the side of it. Like, if you shoot there, you'll pen every time. And it's like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, oh, this is what someone who's played the game for like decent proportion of time
Yeah.
doesn't know. So like I'm like, what I would have made the video on is like the chieftain turret weak spot, when really you should be going, well, here's the chieftain lower plate, like here is the side of the chieftain and where you don't want to fire at, and like stuff like this, where it's like you don't need to go for like the minute weak points. It should actually be like the bigger things. But then I don't think that there's an audience for console that want to like learn how to get better, like to a degree. Like
It's more the casual.
I just don't think that they think like we make content for people that are interested in World of Tanks. Like 95% of the game don't go on YouTube, and like they just they probably come home and play like 10 games. Yeah, I reckon that. Wargaming released some statistics as to like the amount of players that like play. If you like look at how many complete these operations that come out, like for the free tanks and stuff, you're looking at like just 90,000 people completed this operation this month, and it's like, well, 90,000 people have actually completed the op, which means like even if you take like 75% of people who actually like completed the op, which is probably more like 10% have actually gone on and finished it, well, you're still looking at like 100 and something thousand people that play the game every month, which is still quite a lot. And I expect that probably 95% of those people are casual players that just come on, play like 5 games of an evening, maybe a couple times a week, spend 40 quid on a new tank if they think it looks cool, and they don't really play that much. So I think like Wargaming don't advertise console. Like I've never seen an advert for console World of Tanks, which is something that they could probably do better on. Like for example, like some of my videos do better than the actual World of Tanks channel console. Like in my opinion, that shouldn't happen, because that's the actual game developers who make the game. And that
on that point, I did have that thought earlier this week, because I was watching, well, I didn't step into it, but I saw the number of people watching the Tuesday stream for World of Tanks console on Twitch, and just scrolling down through all the CCs that I subscribed to, and there was another CC on there streaming, and he had more viewers than the actual World of Tanks console, the official company channel. And I can see your point there with the advertising, because I think I've had World of Warships ads come up on some of my videos, or other videos that I've just been watching around YouTube.
I think.
Yeah, but I don't know if World of Tanks even has an advert, does it? I don't know. I've never seen it.
The PC version does, because it comes on TV. So, and I've seen it. And someone actually commented on my video yesterday or something like that, and they were like, "Why am I getting an ad for World of Tanks when watching World of Tanks?" Like video, which I thought was funny. There's definitely like a PC World of Tanks advert. There's definitely a World of Warships one, and I've seen the Legends one as well, like World of Warships Legends. Know about Blitz, but I think like Wargaming strategy is like, we'll just put that you can play on Xbox and PS4 if in the bottom right hand corner of the advert somewhere, like the main game.
Sorry.
But there's just no advertising for it.
Yeah, sorry. I need to break. I need to take a phone call. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. Oh,
sorry about that. Wife's at work and she's on her break.
No worries.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So we'll call that intermission.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. There was this will be an interesting conversation for people to listen to, I think, because there's, the controversial thing this week has been the Taran, right? And
All right, yeah.
I'll admit, I've watched your video, and in your video you said, leave your comments below on different opinions and blah 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 and all that. And I thought to myself, I'll leave a comment, and then I thought, well, no, I won't do that, because I'm going to talk to Eclipse this weekend, and I'll talk to him about my thoughts on it. Now, it would seem in my traditional way, I'll just be flat out controversial and say I don't think it's as broken and as overpowered as it's been made out to be.
Okay.
Which straight away people are probably unsubbed. But what I kind of wanted to break this down, because this isn't the first time that a premium tank has come out and the reaction has been, oh, Wargaming have done it again, it's overpowered, blah 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 blah, they're money grabbing. And I think actually, well, this time it's a bit different, because I think with the Taran it is different, because what is it, I've got the figure £100 in my head. 450,000 free XP is 70.
Yeah,
70.
It is literally 100 quid.
It's 100 quid. Okay, 100 quid for a pixel tank. That is a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
But that the whole money side of it, we'll put that to one side for now. And I wanted to ask you, when we talk about tanks and when we say a tank is overpowered or broken or whatever, insert word here, basically, what is it that you have in mind when you think about overpowered? Like, what boxes have to be ticked in order for you to say, right, this is overpowered?
Okay, right. So one thing that I find difficult, because I read all of the comments pretty much.
Yeah.
Might not respond to all of them, or might not have time to respond because there's like 200 in one video, so it's like might not be able to respond to them all. Yeah. But I see people that are like, tank isn't that overpowered, like blah blah blah, like it's not that good. And I'm like, I see where you're coming from, because sometimes it's like, the tank isn't that good if you don't know like how to use it. And it's like, certain tanks are like trash for like 90% of players. If you're good, like, goes from like this point where it's like flatline, like 90% of players, and then like the top, like, I don't know, 15% of players will have like the ability to just do something else in it, where it's like, tank is like fairly okay, like if you know what you're doing and you understand, like, hang on a minute, I've got 950 alpha, I reload in 13.8 seconds, can just poke around a corner, take 400 damage and deal 950. You only have to do that like 5 times in a game, which means like you literally like camp. You don't even have to camp, like you can just like can be aggressive, but just be a little bit less aggressive than the other people on your team, where you just kind of like trade in your teammates' health, whack out 950 damage at least like 4 times on average, which is what, like 3,800 damage or thereabouts, from very minimal effort. Like if you do put in effort, like you can easily get like 10k. There's tanks that are like, in order to become like super good at like super high damage results, you have to have like a variety of different things. And that's kind of what makes them overpowered, I think. It's like, yeah, this tank might be really good in like all of the normal scenarios, but are you limited by the alpha damage of the tank? For example, like if you've got 400 alpha, no matter what you do, like 90% of times, because you're coming up against players that might not realise like what's actually worth it. Like if someone comes around the corner Like, if they're in like a King Lurver or something, and you're playing the FE-4202, like, yeah, the tank is really good in my personal opinion. Probably my favourite medium in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna dump that 750 hit point shot into you. You're gonna deal 400 damage to them, and then your team are gonna take him out from full health before you even get to reload, because they've made like a silly play. They've just like YOLO'd you, done one shot of damage, and then got taken out. As if I'm in the Taran, like the King Lurver YOLOs you, he deals 700 to you, you deal 950, so you come out on top. It's like literally got no negatives then.
Okay.
Just have that kind of like middle finger to the opponents that you come up against. Like if someone is an idiot and they decide like, do you know what, I'm going to go through the middle of the map and I'm just going to focus on you, you can be like, well, actually, I'm going to take 950 of your hit points away. There's nothing you can do about it.
Okay.
Whereas if you're in like a medium, you can only deal one shot.
Okay. All right. So for you, overpowered is this imbalance between what can be done to you versus what you can do to other people. That it's that lack of balance between the two sides. Is that correct? Have I understood you correctly?
Yeah, it's kind of like how well can it deal with things in the worst case scenario, and because like the best scenario you can make any tank work, but in the bad scenario where maybe you get YOLO'd by like 3 people, certain tanks, no matter how like good they are in standard gameplay, will be terrible because you get one shot off and then you're taken out. Whereas like, so I kind of like the high alpha damage, or alternatively things like autoloaders, because the TVP, for example, I would deem as a very strong tank. I don't think it's overpowered because it doesn't get the armor, so like that doesn't deem it overpowered, but I think it's super strong because you have 1280 hit points worth of damage that if you're okay at the game, you can dish out 1280 onto anyone that decides like, oh, I'm just going to YOLO you or whatever it might be. It's kind of like, well, want to be worth it for you. Yeah, you might get a couple shots into me, but I've just taken 1280 and all I need now is a couple of my teammates to hit you, which they probably will because I'm not in a silly position. So I think like there's like kind of like the maximum that you can do. Like certain tanks will be good, fairly consistent, like E50M, but how many E50Ms do you actually see doing like 14k damage? Well, not that many, because you have to deal so much damage consistently. Like the opportunities that arise for you to deal 4 shots as opposed to like dealing 1 in the FE 4005 is like, well, yeah, like it's so much harder for you to get that right game where everything goes right.
Yeah. Okay. So with what you've specified there, then I would say a practical example of that is a game I had in the Taran on Fisherman's Bay. May have been on Tuesday, I don't remember.
Okay.
But I was the last alive against, I believe it was 6, and I was rushed by, I was a one shot, and I was rushed by 2 of their heavies, who happened to rush me 13 seconds apart, which was quite nice. But because I had the high alpha, I was able to one bang both of them, even though they were both on like 600 health, 750 health. Typically that would be 2 shots for any other tank, but for this one in particular it was a 1 shot. So that example of taking out 2 tanks, which I otherwise wouldn't have been able to do if it weren't for the stats of the Taran, that's a working example of what you feel makes it overpowered. Is that right?
In some regards, it has to have other things as well. Like, for example, if it goes to 10 kilometers an hour and deal 950 alpha, it's going to be crap because you're not going to have opportunity to actually. Like, I'm all about effective DPM. Like, have DPM, so like something like STB1 or whatever, FE4202, like the mediums. Like, how effective are they? Because if you're coming up trying to like side scrape against something, you can only get one shot into them before they like move back around the corner, or whereas with like something, I don't know, like you always see it at like tier 8. I think tier 8 is a good example where you have things like the Draugen, which are like has 480 hash pen, which for a tier 8, compare it to the other mediums at tier 8, it's like almost double the damage of quite a lot of the mediums. Like you get some that have like 390, but damage is always like much higher, which means that experienced players, because they know where to position themselves, will be able to make use of the DPM. Like, oh, I'm going to reload in 12 seconds. Let's move into a position that allows me to get shots off. Like, if you're reloading every like 4 seconds, it's like how many opportunities in maybe that 12 seconds which you're reloading in the Draugen are you going to actually take advantage of getting the extra shell off? If you're having to move, like, get into a position within 4 seconds, you're just never going to do that for the entire game. So
okay.
I think alpha plays a good proportion of it, but it doesn't mean that like tanks can't be overpowered.
Okay.
It still can.
Yeah. All right. I'll jump in now with I'd say my definition of overpowered, and I hadn't really put much thought into this at all. And I'd been playing the game for 3 years. I'd never even crossed my mind to think that a tank was overpowered, even when I was, making videos. Until Wargaming introduced the Armadillo. Now, in a nutshell, my bar for overpowered. An overpowered tank, and my definition of an overpowered tank is the pre-nerf Armadillo. And for me, the definition of overpowered is a tank that has so many unfair advantages that it is basically a one-man army. You don't need a team to do well. You could be 1 versus 15 and still do incredibly well. And the pre-nerf Armadillo was it still is tiny. It was lightning quick. It was only a proxy spot. The gun penned every single shot. The interclip reload was insane. The full clip reload was just as insane. And maneuverability, everything about that tank was just utterly bonkers. And I thought to myself, well, maybe it's just because I'm good at this particular vehicle. Maybe I'm just good in it. And I thought, okay, well, I'll take that thought seriously and think about it. And I made a video on this. I think I'll probably link to it in the bottom of the description of this video. But I thought to myself, right, I'm going to go and play 10 games in the Armadillo. And my prediction is I will finish in the top 2 every single game, 10 games in a row. And before I even went out and tried this, I had no doubt in my mind whatsoever that I could do it. And I went out and did it. And I've got screenshots of it. I put them in the video just to prove that I'm not just BSing people. But that tank, it got so bad that games were predictable from the load screen. The team with the most Armadillos would win, and that was just fact. That actually happened, and the only time an Armadillo could be beaten was by overwhelming odds. And I'm not talking about 1 versus 4, 1 versus 5. I mean like 1 versus 8 or 1 versus 9. Like that was when the Armadillo was matched. Anything below that, and you could run rings around people. You just annihilate them, whether you were good at the game or not. Because the catch with the Armadillo was, all you needed to know how to do was, firstly, drive a tank. If you can drive it without driving off a cliff, then you're halfway. And the second thing was just know how to auto lock. If you could do those 2 things, it doesn't matter if you were a veteran of the game or you just bought the tank. you had the potential to be MVP almost every game, earning crazy amounts of silver. And for me, after having experienced that, that's my bar for overpowered. And when I compare, maybe my definition is, I don't know, maybe it's a little too harsh or whatever, I don't know. But when I compare the Taran to that, I think, well, yeah, it's not bad. It's no one could say it's a bad tank. No one. But I do feel that if the team doesn't do the right thing, you're screwed. Even if you do have this amazing reload and amazing alpha and mobility, if your team lets you down or the map isn't suited to you, you can do well, but you can't predict that you will be MVP and in the top 2 for 10 games straight. And you can't look at the scoreboard and say, "Oh, they've got 2 Tarans, they've won." You know, it's not at that level. Now, maybe the Armadillo was just like insane, out of this world kind of wargaming, should never have ever done that. But for me, with the Taran, I do think that, you know, I had a game last night on Prokhorovka, and you know, Prokhorovka, if you've got an active scout, then the Taran is just in its element on that map. And I think I did 7,500 damage, which, you know, that's respectable regardless of what tier 10 tank you're in. That's good. And I'm sure a better player than I could do, you know, 10,000 plus, like you've said. But I finished second that game, and I thought to myself, well, that's a demonstration of this thing being overpowered. But then I got to the MVP screen, and there's a Jaegeru in third place with 7,200 damage, and I thought, well, he's done just as much damage as I have. And the numbers that the Taran is pulling in, you know, other tanks do that. And that's where I'm thinking, is it really as overpowered as it's being made out to be? Because it has no armor. You get spotted and you're done. 2-3 shots, you're done.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get spotted in the pre-nerf Armadillo, you're just like, all right, see ya, bye, meet.
Yeah. No, I get that. From a personal standpoint, I think once you reach a certain skill level, you start disregarding armor of tanks. Like a tank's armor means absolutely nothing to me.
Your own tank's armor, you mean?
Yeah.
In reference to the vehicle you're driving. Yeah.
So, like, example, the fact that the tank doesn't, I will sacrifice the armor if it means everything else, because armor only works for the skill level of the player that you're coming up against. So, like, my armor, but I'm limited by what my tank can do outside of its armor. So, like, your armor stops the other player from doing as well, but only if they're like certain level, like, because the best players in the game will pen you every single time, whether you have a Jaegeru or whether you have Taran. It just makes it slightly easier for them to guarantee it. Like,
okay, yeah, I see your point there.
I want to do better. I'd much rather have an extra 100 alpha over something like an E4, be able to travel at 60 kilometers an hour as opposed to like 40 or 35 or whatever the actual statistic of the E4 is. Have better, basically, like, accuracy and flexibility. You have a full turret. Like, I think it's all of the other aspects there, but that might just be because, like, my own situation. For example, a new player might buy it and be like, "This is terrible." Like, it's terrible because the armor of something like a Jaegeru benefits them more than the increase in, like, how quickly you might be able to deal damage effectively. Because like, they might not have the longevity in the game to make the increases in performance of the gun work for them comparatively to, like, I might bounce like an extra 3 shots if I use the Jaegeru. So, like, it's very subjective. Like, I could label a tank overpowered, but then for brand new player it might be terrible, because, like, it's very different. Because I think everything's subjective. Like, there's definitely good and bad tanks. But I think like overpowered for me is like if I see it on the enemy team, I'll know that if someone's good in it, they can really stomp. As opposed to like, oh, it's an FE4202, like, yeah, a good player could be driving it, but when I've got 950 alpha, I can just poke round the corner and then I can leave. There's nothing they can do about it. Yeah, they might be the best player in the world, but I'm going to slap them for 950. I'll probably take 400. But I know exactly that that's going to happen, and I can arrange a scenario in which I'm never going to be able to get that second or third shot off to be able to make it like in their favour. So like, there's that, like where I just think,
okay, like, so okay, I think I'm understanding your point of view better. The
comes back to what you actually is where you were like, if I come into a scenario and I feel like it's like just so much in my favour, and like that's what my opinion. And there's definitely a distinguished between broken and overpowered.
Yeah,
like, broken means that in a certain scenario, this thing is just, it shouldn't happen. Overpowered is where like in the game it is overpowered. It is powered better than the majority of other tanks. Not just like, for example, artillery isn't overpowered. It's just broken. The fact that you can like one-shot another tank, that in itself is broken. But how often do you see artillery doing like 14k damage? Not that often. Like how often do you see them doing above 5k damage? Not that much.
Well, I mean, the artillery conversation, that's a whole another topic, isn't it? Right. So the Taran is for an average player, the Taran is sort of mediocre. It's mediocre to good. But your issue with it is basically if you give a super unicum the Taran, they are gonna completely unbalance tier 10. Is that the idea? Is that your thought process?
Like the skill cap, I think that the skill cap of the Taran is way higher than the majority of other tanks in the game already. So like, if you were like top 1% in the game, which I'm not claiming to be, I'm just saying like if you are top 1% in the game, you be able, like, tanks will limit you as to how good you can be because you are better than what the tank is limiting you to. Whereas the Taran might be 2 times further higher up. Like so.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
So like the level of normal tanks will be like a certain skill cap. Like there's only so much you can do, but then the Taran is like an extra 50%. So, like for the average player, maybe they can't even reach the skill cap of the majority of tanks. But then because the Taran is higher, where you have got people that can reach it, it can go above. So if it's not just the Taran.
If you've got
certain tanks,
if you've got the capability to get the most out of the Taran, you are legitimately going to just annihilate everything. And the ability for anybody to be able to do that is what makes it overpowered, in your opinion. Is that right?
Yeah, personally. Then I think it's skewed because like it's hard because if I say like something's overpowered, it means me personally. I'm not going to say like it's going to be overpowered for him from down the street, like who's never played World of Tanks, or alternatively, like there are some tanks that are definitely like that where I could go, yeah, that's overpowered for everyone. That's because the tank itself raises the skill cap, the skill of the players, because it is just that strong. Like case in point, Panzer 5-4. If you play that tank, you have an extra 50% more hit points than the other tank. Comparatively at the tier, like you've got literally tier 6 heavy hit points on a tier 5.
Yeah.
So like, even if you're the worst player in the world, because you've got an extra 50% more hit points, like you can take an extra 50% more hits there or thereabouts, because I don't know how many hits you might take depending on the alpha, etc. So like got an extra 50%. You've also got tier 7 armor at tier 6 or tier 5 even. Like,
yeah, that's true.
so you've also got the speed of like almost a light tank if you put on the speed boost equipment. You can go up to like 70.
I will say, if now the armadillo's been nerfed, that's been taken care of. I would say the 5.4 or the Ram Panzer. I would put that. If I had to rank it, I would say that's more game breaking than the Taran because it's more accessible.
I entirely agree.
It's more accessible.
The skill level of players that you're coming up against is generally lower because they're the lower tiers. And Wargaming don't seem to care. You know it's broken. They know entirely that it's not good for the game. They won't take the jump to be like, right, this is not helping us as a company, because remember, new players have to play through tier 5. Well, they have to play from tier 3 to tier 7, which you can meet the Panzer 5.4 at.
Yeah.
So like that's more dangerous for the game. Like, or not dangerous, but
it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because you could say it's damaging for the game because you've got these new players that come in, face a platoon of 3 5.4s, and they get annihilated by them. And now that player either has a choice. They can either say, I'm uninstalling this because that wasn't very nice, or, given it's a free-to-play game, they'll say, I'll go get me one of those. And here, Mr. Wargaming, here's my £20 that they didn't have that Wargaming didn't have before. So, I mean, as players, we don't.
Is that toxic?
Is that toxic?
Because they might buy the Panzer 5.4, might do slightly better than they previously did, but then they're now going to jump back in their normal tank because they're like, there's only so much of one tank you can play, and then they go, oh, it's crap again. Might have spent some money, but might have stayed longer if it wasn't in the game, and I didn't even have to create that situation.
Yeah, I think topics of discussion like this, they're difficult because we don't have access to the data that Wargaming does, and opinions aside on personal opinions aside on Wargaming, I do believe that they are aware of what their best interests are, and
they're a company.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do believe that they, if something is business breaking, they will fix it, and if it hasn't been fixed, I would go out on a limb.
Deemed it okay.
Yeah, I would go out on a limb and say, well, it's not so bad that they are being negatively impacted, and the prospects for the game are being negatively impacted. I would trust that is the case. I've got no evidence to support that. The only evidence I've got is that Wargaming aren't going out of business that I know of.
Either that, or they just genuinely don't care, and
all that
they just It's I see exactly what you mean. It's either if they know it's happening, which they've addressed before, because they said they were going to nerf it, and then they were like, let's backtrack. No, we're not going to nerf it, which I entirely get, because it's like, you've introduced it now, people have paid their money for it, and if you nerf it, it's like people have paid money for it. Like, they wanted it because it's overpowered. Now that it's like a bit short, mediocre, or like average, like. Get that as well. It's like nerfing premiums is difficult, because it's like people have paid for what you've advertised it as, and now suddenly it's rubbish.
I only recall there being a recall on, I said air quotes, recall on tanks with the Armadillo, and what was the Chinese era 3. I forget the name of it, but it had that 100% free XP boost bug. And in one game I earned 5,000 free XP, and I know some people said, well, the reason I bought this tank was because it had that free XP bonus on it, and that got corrected. So those are the 2 times I know where a premium tank has been released and Wargaming have had to fix it. The Era 3 one, I don't quite know how that slipped through, because on the live.
So you got 100%. 100% free XP, as in like you play like 20 games and you get like 20,000.
Yes,
like,
because you can go back on my channel and you can watch my live stream for it, because I remember playing a game and I got to the end screen and I thought 5,500 free XP. I must have completed some op. I hadn't. That's just what the tank was, and I think there were people that noticed this and they just spammed this tank every game, and they earned like 40,000 free XP, and they got to keep it. Wargaming couldn't take it away from them. So yeah, that was a thing.
At the end of the day, it's their mistake. You shouldn't have released it into the game. Like, I don't think you should take away if it's game breaking. Like, if World of Tanks had a market and someone found a glitch and it exploited it, and now they could like destroy everything. It's like different. Like, World of Tanks console doesn't have a market, so you don't have to worry about any of that. But yeah, like, I think that if you've made the mistake, you can't then go and like take it away from people, because they're the ones that found out your mistake.
Well, yeah, they have corrected that one though, because I think that would absolutely be, for sure, that would be game economy breaking for sure. And it would ruin Era 3, definitely. But I think, on jumping back to the Taran though, I do think the major balancing factor for that tank is the cost. You're not going to have every Joe Blow running around in an armadillo the same way. Well, not every Joe Blow is going to be running around in a Taran the same way they were in an armadillo. I do feel that there is a cap to the accessibility of the Taran, and maybe that's what, in Wargaming's mind, sort of, they said, well, we'll release it because it's £100, you know. Little John,
people buy it.
Well, little Johnny's not gonna be able. Well, I hope I hope not. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of all the angles. Yeah,
it's got to be £1 million tank right there. I like, if it's £100 each, even if 1,000 people buy it, that's £100,000 they've made off of it. Like, there's probably 10,000 brands that have been bought.
Yeah, when you say it like that, you say it like that, they're not.
Like £1 million. I
should start my own tanking game. That's what I should do.
Yeah, I'm thinking that. I mean, compare it to the PC, it's not actually that bad.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it would be an expensive World of Tanks PC tank, but all of theirs are like 40 quid. That's flat price. There are no bundles or like discounts that you really get.
Yeah.
Not any decent ones. Like, they don't really sell anything, which I think console have kind of got quite good. Like, they give a lot of free tanks out, which so people are more likely to buy things like the Taran, because they're like, well, I've had this many free premiums, blah blah.
Yeah. Okay.
I still don't justify it though. £100 for one tank. It might be the most broken tank in the game, but I would never say to anyone I know personally, family wise, which would then, you know, if I wouldn't tell my family to buy it, I definitely wouldn't tell random people to buy it.
The only people I would tell to buy this are people that play the game 24/7 and have so much free XP they've got nothing else to do with it. That's the only people.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the stream, Wargaming stream last night, they announced that someone had just gone over their 110,000th game. 110,000 games, that's insane. That's a lot of playtime, and it's someone like that, I would say, has, you know, you've got 1 million free XP and you've got every tank, every premium. Sure, go ahead, get the Taran.
Feel like that's your life at that point, because I've played so much World of Tanks because I was at uni all the time. Like, probably because obviously that's like 3 years plus like the Masters, which was an extra year, so 4 years total.
Yeah.
I played quite a lot in that time. Granted, I didn't play every single year because I left and quit and play for like 6 months or a year throughout the time that I've played the game. But I played like 24,000 battles, roughly. I don't know exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Spent 180 days, 190 days game time. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it says on Xbox. Like, you have played 190 days on the game.
Yeah.
It's not like how many days you've logged in. That's actual time.
Actual game time playing. Yeah.
4,000 hours of playing game or more. I don't even know how many hours that is.
Yeah.
But it's a lot. So
yeah.
I think like 150. There's someone that did 150,000 games or something like that a couple of weeks back. They
Sheesh.
like said about, which if I've done like 180 days, I've played 20,000. Like, that's what, like nearly nearly like 4 years actually like playing the game. If you put it in like years wise,
it's a long time.
they played as much as I did, like the amount of battles.
Or they're just going out in tier 3, dying immediately, taking out another tier 3.
Yeah, that's the that's probably more likely to be able to get to that many. But yeah. Equally, like compared to when I first started playing, I probably last like probably twice as long in game.
Yes.
So there's always that, like,
we might never know.
Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, let's we'll call this one here for now, I think. But I think I think we've got plenty of other topics we could discuss. So I'll have to invite you back on this one. But
yeah, it's been really good actually.
Yeah.
Interesting to see, because obviously, as I always say in some of my videos, I'm just one person. I play the game as like everyone plays the game. My opinions aren't better than anyone else just because I've got X amount of people that watch my videos. So
yeah, well,
it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that actually, because I streamed last night and someone asked me on the stream, what did they say? They said, do you think Eclipse is a bit harsh on his tank reviews? And you know, I'm hesitant to comment on someone else's opinions on things without actually talking to them first. But
oh yeah, you can be critical. I don't care. Like, I might think this tank is terrible, but you might think this tank is brilliant. Like, just because I say, like, just my personal opinion, would I play it? Well, if I was going to recommend it, no. Equally, you might be like, well, this suits my gameplay style. It's really good. I like this tank.
Yeah. So
equally, we should have a discussion. So
yeah, and that comment, it prompted me to think, you know, it would be good if we had these conversations, not just with yourself, with other CCs as well, just everybody to have a conversation about it and discuss it, because I think it can be the community can get quite divided, and I think the only way we can break down the walls of division is to actually, you know, talk to each other and just discuss things and bounce ideas off each other and work through, you know, agreements or disagreements or wherever it might be. So yeah, I think this has been really, really good and really helpful, and I think you'll be invited back, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's been good. I think a lot of people, just as a final point, is like, a lot of people, not necessarily, but community wise, will be like, I don't want to talk to anyone, blah blah blah, like,
yeah, I'll stick to this opinion.
Don't want to give anyone any secrets. I'm just going to stick on my own.
Yeah.
Like, that's, at the end of the day, if someone else grows or gets bigger, or someone else gains a following, it's helping community, which in turn will help you. But you see loads of like WoT Console YouTubers starting up now, which I think is a really good sign of the game starting to get more traction on YouTube, because it did once a long time ago, because you have people like the Beard guys. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
But they got
that's a
pretty
while
big,
back.
and it was
Yeah.
good. But you had people like Retro Jules, Cosmic Carry.
Yep.
Also had what's the Captain Beardface? He was
Yes.
quite good.
Yeah.
I spoke to him back in the day when he was doing it. I think he got to like 8,000 subs pretty quickly. But I think now that we're seeing more people grow, it's a good sign. And I think that people want a hand with anything, just ask.
Exactly. Yeah.
Might not be able to do it straight away though. I'm pretty busy. Yeah.
All right, mate. Well, I appreciate your time, and I really appreciate this conversation. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been brilliant.